One night we were telling ghost stories. That was very funny. We really scared each other very quickly. It all came to a head very quickly. It didn't even last 20 minutes.
We often freak ourselves out to the point where all the lights go on in the cottage before everybody goes to bed, or we decide that we have to stop talking and go to bed.
Right at 12 o'clock, the CD started skipping. Right at 12 o'clock, CD started skipping. Everyone kind of freaked out. We all had to calm down and we all went to bed.
What if you don't think ghosts are real, but your close friends keep seeing them? Something's got to give. Hello, I'm Lawrence Chow. Today on Ghostly Encounters, we'll meet 3 lifelong friends with different opinions about ghosts, and we'll look at how they influence one another's perceptions of the spooky experiences each have had. Louise Abbott is a study in contradiction. She says she doesn't believe in ghosts, but she loves to scare herself silly with horror movies, and she is convinced that her friends Lisa Rain and Tina Dell have each come face to face with phantoms. Louise originally sent our researchers to Lisa and Tina. She said both had scary tales to tell, but they told us Louise has seen spirits too, if only she would acknowledge it. Despite her reluctance to go ghostly, Louise finds herself swept along on the tide of her friends' experiences, starting with a night at a lonely cottage with a pregnant Lisa and her kids.
We got up there in the evening and it was dark by the time we got there. And we had to open the cottage, so we were a little nervous about that. We hadn't been there before in the dark, and we had to find the key, and I had like a little 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and it's kind of weird.
I'm also realizing that with 2 young children and a pregnant woman, I'm going to be the one warding off whatever, porcupines or bears or people or whatever.
It was nerve-wracking for me a little bit, and Louise, because we're just, we're city girls going out to a cottage. I start to read the story, and I'm reading, and my daughter pushes into me quite strongly.
I was watching from the kitchen, and I saw this happen, and she's little, and she's being pushed into her mother.
And I look down at her, and she looks up at me. She doesn't say anything, so I continue to read. 30 seconds later, she pushes really hard into me again. And I look down at her, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Someone's pushing me." So I leaned past her and I said, "Well, stop pushing her." Treating it like it's another child or whatever. As I'm reading, I look over at the kids' heads at Louise. Louise and I were like, "Oh God."
We're both like, "Ooh." And both of us looked at each other across the room. Again, we didn't say anything because we don't want to alarm the children or anything. But she was truly, to me, and what Lisa was feeling, it looked like she was being shoved by something.
It was just some entity trying to get our attention.
I felt just a huge anxiety, and the fact that Lisa responded to it, I felt that she probably was feeling something a little more, so it was fear. For me, it was more fear than anything else. I was afraid.
Here we go. That's what I thought. Oh, great. Here we go. So anyway, put the children to bed, and then I don't know what happened. We stayed up for a little while, and then I think I slept out on the couch.
Yeah, I was saying we slept very close together.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact sleeping arrangements.
Right.
It's close.
Yeah,
That's right.
we were close together.
Lisa is on the forefront of what is commonly known as the New Age movement. Our experts would call her a proactive practitioner in the spiritual world. Tina is more passive, but she still had frightening experiences that she can't explain. She doesn't feel as in control of those situations as Lisa seems to be, and that makes her react differently than her friend. One night, the women are at Louise's Northern Ontario camp, a place they've been going to for years. Tina's night goes from disquieting to terrifying, beginning at a local restaurant.
As soon as I walked into that restaurant, I just felt I didn't know really what I was feeling, but it was odd, and I thought, oh, well, it's probably because I had left my daughter for the first time, and maybe I was just a little bit nervous about that.
The lady leaned over and sort of, I think she was between Tina and somebody else, and she said, "There's ghosts. There's a ghost here that we see quite often in the restaurant." She went into this big spiel later about this woman that she sees in the restaurant.
And as soon as she said the words, I thought, why did you say that? And all of a sudden, everything changed for me at that table. I just, I kind of felt the pins and needles in my back, and I thought, okay, well, just let it go. You're here for a good time and to relax. It was your first time away from home for a long time. And I remember walking into the bathroom saying, don't attach yourself, don't talk to me, don't show yourself. If it's true and it's haunted, please go away. And it was just too late. And I remember the washroom in there being really, really small, and thinking, oh, and I've got to get out of here. I've just got to get back to the table. You know, when someone's following you too closely, when you're walking, you know that someone's following you too closely. That's what it feels like. And I just felt that elevator feeling, that there was someone behind me at all times throughout the whole dinner. And when we got back to the camp, it was just an uneasy feeling again, and the girls were kind of relaxing now and all that. And when I went to bed, I just was exhausted, and I thought, I just can't do this anymore. I went up to bed. And all of a sudden, through either my own imagination, every window had this face in it. She had shoulder-length, blunt cut, straight blonde hair with a straight bang. Not smiling, but not frowning, just a very solemn face. It wasn't seeing her in a individual window. It was seeing her in every window at the same time. I remember in my head saying, like, you know, don't come, don't talk to me, I'm not interested, I don't want to be your friend, if you think that I'm going to see you, I'm not, and just kind of warning it off, saying no thanks, but no thanks. And I thought, oh God, you're just imagining this, like, just close your eyes and go to bed and get out. And there was no way. There was absolutely no way. Whether it was my imagination or it was real, there was no way. I remember getting up at 5 a.m. and packing up and just heading for home.
I said to her the day later, when I talked to her later, that she should have just woken us all up.
Why did you leave me in there alone with the ghost? Was my question. Let me go back to sleep, thinking I was fine.
I think I left before everybody woke up.
Leaving me alone.
Leaving me
not
alone.
telling me
But I hadn't
everything.
told
I didn't
you.
find that out
Right.
until later.
And I hadn't told you that.
With the ghost in all the windows.
Here, pick her.
Was at the counter, and he was in the house somewhere, my husband, and I'm working, and I see this foot behind me walk by, and I thought that it was Jim, and I said, I see you there. I thought he was, sneaking up on me. And he didn't answer, so I turned around, and there was no one there, but I clearly saw a shoed foot. When we had moved in, I felt that there was always someone behind me, and specifically an older man. A few days later, my daughter, who is now 7, says, we're sitting at the table, and she said, Mommy, it feels like there's someone behind me all the time. And she said, what does that mean? I said, that there's someone here who still lives here. About 2 weeks after that, I'm again making dinner, and my husband wasn't home. The 2 older children, they come running down the stairs, white, afraid, yelling, there's a scarf hanging in the hallway. I said, where? Just thinking there's a scarf on the doorknob. It's hanging in the air, just in your doorway. And they were white, and their little veins popping out in their head, and I was like, oh. I said, oh, well, it's dinner time. Come and eat. No, we have to come and look. I said, no, I'll look later. So we eat dinner, and I get them off that, and just talked a little bit about it. Well, was it there before? When was it there? And he said, no, it just appeared. So a few hours go by, and we're going upstairs, and they're getting ready for bed, and I thought that we would go up and they would have forgotten about it. And they both right away said, it was right there, that's where it was right there. Clearly, the both of them saw it. They are affected the same way, and they're both describing it. One wasn't saying she saw it or he saw it, they were both talking about it. So after that experience, and this is just all a matter of a few weeks, then I cleansed the house with the sage and the sending of love and acknowledgement, and it's been quiet ever since.
I believe people get to certain levels of spirituality, and Lisa has opened herself up to, she does Reiki, she's opened herself up to different forms of channeling, and she's often gone inside and bettered herself that way through meditation and things like that. So I think, sometimes I think that Lisa's sort of on a different, it's not a different plane, but she's on a different level of understanding than a lot of us are. And she seems very at peace with herself because of that, and I admire and respect that. We're coming back from school, walking down a really long corridor in the subway, and Lisa did this. Oh, I can demonstrate. It's just like the school thing for don't cross the road. Anyway, I know that there's something wrong. Anyway, she did that to me, and then she says, my head, I'm feeling very tingly. I'm feeling something's wrong. There's nobody, there's nothing around us. Until we get to the base of the stairs and I look up, my instinct is to get up there and not sort of be stuck in the corridor. And she's going the other way, so I'm like, come, we'll go up. It's okay, it's okay. She says, I tell you, something's wrong, something's wrong.
So we're going up these stairs, and she was in front of me, and she's closer to the top of the stairs, and this guy steps out, and he says, hi, do you have any money? My brother and I are trying to get to go and see my mom, and he was high, and that was obvious. And then his brother steps out, so now there are two men standing very aggressively in front of Louise, who's now looking up.
He says, do you have money? And it was an intimidating situation because they were there was more of a threat there than just your regular kind of bum on the street asking you for a quarter or a buck.
It was definitely a bad situation.
And I gave him money, and I said to her, you know, the only reason they got anything from me was because she had the tingling, and I felt that she sensed danger. When I got up to the top of the stairs, I felt that she could be right.
So we hurry to our car, we get in the car, and she says, oh my God, if it wasn't for your prickly head, I probably would have given them half for asking walk by.
And I would have. It was
really
so
bad.
not like me. Lisa and I have a very strong connection, and if she feels or sees something, or I completely and utterly trust that instinct. I trust it to be stronger and usually more insightful than mine, so.
Louise is what you might call a spiritual pragmatist, sort of like the man who doesn't believe in God, but prays on his deathbed just in case. Louise didn't commit herself to Lisa's beliefs, but she still considered it prudent to adjust her actions on Lisa's say-so. Then just days before she appeared on Ghostly Encounters, Louise felt her daughter was being threatened by a violent ghost.
We've just moved into a 100-year-old house. My friend Lisa came over to smudge the place, so she burned sage and walked all around. And even though, like I said, I'm not that much of a believer, I let her do whatever she needs to do because she believes, and I just want to make sure. And my daughter, who sleeps like a rock and is 6 years old, started waking up the second night we were there and saying she's being pinched. And it freaked me out. And I said to her, well, I think you must be dreaming. And she said, no, she's pinching me. She's pinching me. So then she said, come and sleep with me, Mommy. And I said, no, come in my room and sleep with me because I'm not staying in this room with you. And then the next night, she was sitting bolt upright in bed, and she called me, and she said she was being slapped, and it was hurting her. I was saying to Lisa when I called her, like, you know, whatever it is, I think it's getting worse, and, you know, I have to do something. So can you come over? And she couldn't, so she told me what to do. I did it.
Some people who are very afraid of something, if something's happening and they're afraid, what you can do and what I do is I surround myself with light, and that's kind of like my shield. And mischievous entities or whatnot can't touch that.
I was petrified because she said, you know, you have to call the spirit forth. And so I went into her room and closed my eyes tight. I said, you know, you're not wanted here. You've got to go towards light. You've got to be free of the house. And then proceeded to visually fill the room and around the house with light. So that's what I was told to do, and I did. And it's to her benefit. We haven't had any awakening since.
By her own admission, Louise is terrified of ghosts. And the last thing she would want to do is face one and tell it to get out of the house. But her fear was outweighed by her need to protect her daughter and by her trust in Lisa's advice. Still, though it seems that her friends have made Louise a believer, she's not completely won over.
As quickly as I believe something, I can also, as with anything, I can sort of weigh it scientifically, or what I would say logically, and I can sort of negate it. And so I have the balance of the two.
I don't think Louise gives herself enough credit in terms of how she's doing in that realm. For instance, she says one thing but does another. On one level, she will explain this away, but she's the one who brought us here.
Lisa says I block it, like I stop, and I stop it myself, as opposed to inviting the happening to continue. I push it back. And so I guess if I stopped doing that and opened myself up to it, I might expand the experience and potentially enjoy it, but I don't know.
More layers that you can peel off with certain fears and things. I think it just becomes, you become more open to spot it, to see it.
Everybody has those experiences, and the more open you are to them, the more you can shed that mantle of fear and just choose to put on a different mantle of love and acceptance, and that just being part of the wonderful experience.
I find that Tina and Lisa are often very accepting. You know, they see things and they accept it as a positive. Whereas me, with my horror movie background and addiction, if it's there to kill me. Like, that's why I suppose I am a little afraid.
The influence of friends goes both ways. The women share a common belief that the world operates scientifically or on the predictable laws of nature. But Lisa, and sometimes Tina, extend those laws to the spiritual realm. Many spiritualist movements explain the supernatural world with scientific theories. Theories like all matter is energy. In the end, like the fine balance of their friendship, the women believe there must be balance between the spiritual and the scientific.
And we might be discussing the spiritual end of things, but I think that we also are very clear on the scientific end of things. But the scientific end comes in very
it's just
heavily.
like if the light bulb's flickering, I'll always check the light bulb first.
Yeah, exactly.
Before I go right to, okay,
Right.
everyone, just settle down for a second.
Yeah, you know.
We've learned well from our husbands.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll always
that's
check the light bulb first.
That's right.
What makes someone notorious? Inconceivable crimes
The hair on the back of your neck stands up when you realize what you're watching.
and a passion for publicity.
He enjoyed the attention. He wanted to be on the front page.
Secret schemes and shocking extremes 5 nights a week. Notorious. Monday through Friday at 8. Only on Bio. True story.